Welcome back to a different episode of Table Talk, where it's going to be just me. That's right, because you guys know exactly who I am. And it's kind of my first time doing this because this is this is the profession I want to pursue when, I get through college and everything. So I told Ryan I'm nervous. I don't know why, but so I have to deal with that. I have a whole list. I'm biting on a pen because I'm nervous. I'm sorry, but I got a whole list of topics here, ranging from the NFL to the MLB. I'm probably not going to talk about basketball and other sports as much. I mean, I'll talk about college football. I'll talk about as much basketball as I can. But mainly it's going to be about football, baseball, because that's the two main sports I follow. Okay, so let's first recap all the games this week. I guess we'll talk about the ones that are going on right now. We got the Colts and the Raiders in the fourth quarter with a little under 7 to go. It's tied 28-28. Nyheim Hines rushed for 5 yards, touchdown. Let's see. Andrew Luck, 212 for 2 touchdowns. Marlon Mack, 19 rushes, 111 yards, touchdown. I'm actually really personally pissed about this game because I have T.Y. Hilton in fantasy, and it's now the fourth quarter, and he only has, I think, 2 catches for 20 or 30 yards, and I don't know what's going on there. But two kind of bad teams. I think the Colts are the better team in this game, but I mean, they're tied right now, so you don't really know. Another bad game, 49ers, Cardinals, two teams that are 1-6. 15-3, 49ers are on top right now. C.J. Beathard, 135 for 1 touchdown. Matt Breida, 13 attempts, 35 rushes. Of course, he's not doing anything. The Packers-Rams game kind of started off slow, but it is the 7-0 Rams that are up top, 16-13 right now in the third with 6:19 to go. Aaron Rodgers, 170 yards, no touchdowns. Jared Goff, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. Todd Gurley, 15 rushes, 50 yards, 5 receptions, 80 yards, touchdown. Todd Gurley doing Todd Gurley things. Okay, other games that ended. Eagles. Oh my God, what the fuck are the Eagles? Eagles over the Jaguars, 24-18. That was expected because Blake Bortles is the worst quarterback in the NFL. The Steelers overcame the Browns, 33-18. I say overcame because it was an ugly game, even though the score clearly doesn't show it. Ben Roethlisberger, 257, 2 touchdowns, interception. James Conner again went off, 24 rushes for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. Antonio Brown, 6 catches, 74 yards, 2 touchdowns. Baker Mayfield struggled. He threw for 180 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Nick Chubb, 18 rushes, 65 yards. A fantasy letdown. Another fantasy letdown is Jarvis Landry, 8 catches for 39 yards. I started him in my DFS league, which means you win money for it, and I didn't win anything. So thank you to Landry. That's ESPN. They're calling us. No, I'm kidding. Let's see what other games we got. We got the Redskins and the Giants. Of course, the Redskins won because the Giants are the worst team in the NFL. I will say that from now until forever. 20-13. I don't know why Eli Manning's still in this league. I mean, I would understand if he got traded, but the Giants should have made the crucial call that nobody wants to talk about, which is getting Eli Manning out of New York or possibly out of football. Everybody thinks it's really dry. Is there any water in there? Dude, I feel like I'm I need medical attention. Is there anything in there? What the hell? Okay, we're gonna wait for that. We're going to go to the Broncos-Chiefs game, which the 7-1 now Chiefs overcame the Broncos 30-23. And Ravens-Panthers, which I expected to be a good game, really wasn't. Panthers overcame the Ravens 36-21. Ugly game from Joe Flacco because he's not elite. I mean, he's not really that good. Cam Newton did, serviceable. That's how I feel about him. I think he's a serviceable quarterback. He can elevate to a higher level at some times, but sometimes he doesn't show it. He's very inconsistent. So Cam Newton 219, 2 touchdowns. Serviceable. 52 yards on the ground, touchdown. Doing what he does. I think the Panthers are they are a playoff team in my opinion, and I think they will go into the playoffs and they will have a considerably deep run. Teams that I don't think who are going to go to the playoffs, however, are the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions, who played together. 28-14 Seahawks. I don't think. I don't think, as you can hear, you can probably hear my dog. She's running rampant because she doesn't know how to react to people. Seahawks, in my opinion, they're a good team, but the only thing that's good about them is their quarterback. And they don't have any weapons around Russell Wilson. They don't have they have a deep threat in Doug Baldwin, but he's really inconsistent, and he's not a proven true wide receiver one. So I don't know how I feel about him. They have a running back committee that is filled with more people than I think my fantasy bench. You got Chris Carson, you got Rashad Penny, who everyone thought was going to be amazing, and now you got I think what's his name, Mike Davis, he's a big kid, and I think he would really do well, but they don't give him enough rushes. It's just ever since Marshawn Lynch left, they don't know what a running back is. I finally got water. Thank you. We're going to talk about how the Jets lost to the Bears. I'm a Jets fan, as some of you might know. It was a horrendous game. Once again, coached by Todd Bowles. He really doesn't know how to deal with clock management, and I don't think he really knows how to deal with a game when it's crunch time and in like the sticky situations that you need to know as a coach. And I'm really on the fence about him. Some games he manages really well, and some games like today he just does not do well at all. Sam Darnold threw for 153 yards and a touchdown. He had a good game. He threw a couple good passes, but he doesn't have any weapons around him. So what is he gonna do? He can't really do much. Crowell did not run that well today. Only 13 attempts and 25 yards. Deontay Burnett, who many of you might know as Sam Darnold's former teammate at USC. They both, came from USC and now they're on the Jets roster. That's pretty cool. He caught 4 passes for 61 yards, which is, pretty good. He was actually his favorite in college, and now he's his favorite, as it seems, in his first game in the NFL. The next game we're going to talk about is the Bengals and the Buccaneers, which this game started off horrendously because Jameis Winston came in. He was throwing for a lot of yardage, 276 yards. He was getting the ball down the field. And then he threw a couple of interceptions, and by a couple I mean 4. 3 of them in the first half, and I think the fourth one was in the second half. And then they finally pulled him, put in Fitzmagic, and, well, he did his magic. He scored 18 points in the fourth quarter to tie the game at 34. Then the Bengals got the ball, a couple timeouts, ran the ball, got to a field goal position, and kicked the field goal and win the game. The Bengals to me could be a good team. They've obviously shown that they can play. Andy Dalton is not a good quarterback in my opinion. I think he's serviceable. He can do the job. He can throw the ball. He can run the ball. He can do the things a quarterback needs to do. He's no Aaron Rodgers, but when he plays big teams, he shrinks. When he can demolish the Browns any day he wants. Then he goes to play the Steelers and he shrinks. When he faces those big teams, when he's in that big spot in that big moment, he shrinks. When we saw against the Chiefs when they played on Sunday night, he choked. He shrunk. He could not do it. He couldn't get the ball downfield. He couldn't get the ball. He couldn't get the ball out of the running back's hands. He couldn't get the ball into his receiver's hands. He didn't know what to do. He shrunk. That's how I feel about him. And then the Buccaneers have their own quarterback problems. So I don't really know what's going on there. I think they're going to just ride Fitzmagic and see where that takes them. As a Jets fan, I can tell you it's not going to end well. What are the other games that are going? There's a game tonight that's Saints-Vikings, which I bet on with my boss, which I think the Saints are going to completely demolish the Vikings after what happened in Minneapolis last year and the playoffs. And I think, this whole offense, even though hasn't really had any big additions, I feel like it's rejuvenated in a way where, Breeze is breaking all these records. He's got rings on his mind. He's playing real well. And then you got Kamara, who's an absolute tank. Michael Thomas, who is probably the third best receiver in the NFL, maybe fourth. He's got to be up there. I think they're really going to be a top-tier playoff team. I think they're number 2 in my opinion. I think it goes Rams, Saints, Patriots, and then Chiefs. So I think that would be my top 4: Rams, Saints, Patriots, Chiefs. They got to make some upgrades on the defensive side, but other than that, they're a pretty capable team, and they've shown it throughout this season and last season as well. And that brings me to Monday night's game, which is the Patriots and the Bills. The Patriots are the same thing they are every year. They lose. They start off like 1-3 or 2-2, and everyone's like, "Oh, the Patriots are finally ending." And then 5-2, they're the best. They're second and third best team in the NFL, and they're demolishing everything in sight. They're playing the Bills, who are the worst team in the division, as it is a divisional game, sharing the same division as the Jets and the Dolphins, who are okay as of right now. Which brings us to the next game that actually ended. It was Thursday night's game, which kicked off Week 8. That was the Texans, who are now 5-3, went over the Dolphins, who are now 4-4, 42-23. Deshaun Watson is continuing to prove that he is the second best quarterback taken in that draft, next to Carson Wentz, and he possibly could be better, in my opinion. Lamar Miller was an absolute saint for my fantasy team. He ran for 133 yards and a touchdown, and he also caught a couple passes for a couple yards. So anyone who owns him in fantasy is frustrated like me. I understand it. I get it. But he's starting to break out now. He had a good week last week. He's got a good week this week. He's going to have a good week next week. I can guarantee it. Or your money back. Ryan's in this room. I know you guys probably don't even know because you can't hear him because he didn't bring a mic. And he also forgot the mic holder, so this is being laid on a basket right now, which my mother is probably going to be looking for. I don't know why. All right, so now we're going to talk about a little list I gathered. And by gathered, I mean quickly thought of when I was eating breakfast this morning. That's what I do. I just think of things when I'm, doing my daily routine. I don't know why. I'm a weird guy. I thought about, how it's Week 8. It's basically the benchmark of the 2018 NFL season. Everyone's like, oh, the season's still young. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. But at the same time, in 2 weeks, it's Week 10. You know what I mean? And then you got 6 more games left, and then it's playoffs, and then Super Bowl. Like, it goes quick. I feel like football just started, but it's almost over. I thought about all the teams that we have, and I thought about the good teams, the okay teams, the terrible teams, but then I also thought about the top 10, which I came up with, top 10 teams that I think can make the playoffs and potentially make the Super Bowl. And I'm going to give them to you right now. I'm not going to put them in any order. I just bulletproof, like, wrote them down. The teams are the Rams, the Chiefs, the Panthers, Saints, Patriots, Steelers, Chargers, Bears, Texans, and Ravens. And that's my dog. And the way I came up with this list is, it's not all about records. Because if it was all about records, then the Rams would be like everyone would just be talking about the Rams and the Chiefs and all that. And I understand the Rams, that's a different case because the Rams are the best team in the NFL in my opinion. They have the best defense, they have the best overall offense. I think they're the Super Bowl favorite right now, I would say, in my opinion. So yeah, the Rams are probably my number one, I would say. I'm going to take the list and I'm going to put it in order. So we can get like a good system here and figure out what we're trying to accomplish. Okay. So the Rams, in my opinion, are number one. I can't even talk today. I'm so nervous. Look at this. I'm nervous for what? What am I doing, huh? All right. Rams are at number one for me. And as I mentioned before, that the Saints are number two on that list because I think they are the second best team in the NFL, and I think that because their defense isn't amazing. It's very leaky. Their corners and their safeties, they give up a lot of yardage. It's tough to explain, but they also got Marshawn Lattimore, and they got weapons, and I feel like their defense can be good when it comes together and it plays good schemes and they produce as a whole. But sometimes one part is not, like, the secondary is not as good and the front seven are amazing, and then like the DBs are not doing as good, but the corners are doing amazing. It's very off and on, but they're still, in my opinion, the second best team in the NFL. And what follows them is the New England Patriots because I think the very opposite of the New England Patriots. Well, I mean, their offense obviously is high caliber, with James White and Tom Brady and Gronk and now Josh Gordon and Sony Michel, even though he's hurt, but he's coming back very soon. So, and you got Julian Edelman too, and Chris Hogan. They got playmakers. That's what makes good teams great. Is playmakers. I always talk about how I think the Jets could be, if the Jets had playmakers, if they had a wide receiver one and they had a true bell cow back and a good edge rusher or a really top talent corner, they could be really like a good team because they got the quarterback. They got the offensive coordinator who's good, Jeremy Bates, and I just think that they could elevate and be a good team if they got those playmakers. Now they got the money with the cap and everything, and they got the draft picks, so they could bolster their team, and we could be talking about a very different team next year. Regardless of the outcome of this year for the Jets, we could be talking about a completely different team next season. Like at this point, at this point they could be 5-1, they could be 7-0, or they could be 0-7. We don't know, but assuming that they use that cap on the right things, which in my opinion are offensive line and maybe a wide receiver and maybe an edge rusher, then I think they could elevate and be that good of a team, and then use their draft picks the smart way, and then maybe try to get a couple more picks. And I think they'll actually be a good team, but it's all up to them and how they go through the process. But if they don't do that, then they'll never be the Patriots because the Patriots will own the division until Brady retires, which we don't know when that is because he's still in amazing shape even though he's 80. So he's not 80, but how old's Tom Brady? I think he's 41. 41 years old. Wow. So I think he's definitely the greatest quarterback of my time. I'm 18 years old. I think that he has been the best quarterback that I've seen over the course of my childhood and into adulthood, because it was him, it was Manning, but I didn't see all of Manning's career. I was I was mostly, like not into football. Like I wasn't really. I know like Manning's a better quarterback, or maybe not better quarterback, but a better clutch performer than Brady. Or no, I don't think that. I think that Brady, in my opinion, is better than Manning, even though I really didn't see a lot of Manning's career. But I think that Brady's better in the sense of being a clutch performer, and I think that he just really, you know, he prepares for every single game, every single situation, anything that could happen and would happen in a game. He has a plan for it. He has a reaction to it. He always keeps his mind in a constant poise. He's never thinking about like the stupid stuff. He's never thinking about what's going on in this show or this magazine or this interview or this commercial. He's never worrying about any of that. That's why you don't see him in commercials. He's an ultimate professional and he's an ultimate warrior too. When he's on off the field and he does all those shows that he does, like his documentary series, which I recommend. It's actually good. Stop laughing at me, man. You're making me nervous. He's a really great guy off the field, as you would expect. He's not a stuck-up guy. He's not one of those like jock athletes. Like he's a family guy. Like he's a really good dad to his sons in more ways than any would think. I'm not going to get into specifics there, but so you look at him off the field, and he's a great guy. And then when he transitions and goes onto the field, he turns into a completely different monster. He attacks the game. He attacks every situation, everything that comes his way. He punches at it. He accepts it. He takes it. He thinks about things he can do with each and every situation of the game, and that's why I think he's the best quarterback I've seen in my time. I'm also saying that as a Jets fan too, so I've experienced it in full force. So I think they're going to go far in the playoffs. They're probably going to be ending up in the Super Bowl because the Saints or someone else is going to lose, and because they're going to beat them by something or whatever, because it's the Patriots. And they're probably going to end up in the Super Bowl. So that's my number 3 team. Now, in my opinion, I think 4 probably comes easy to a lot of people. They all think it's Chiefs. In my opinion, it is Chiefs, obviously, because, their offense is probably, I think it is the best statistically. Let me check that, actually. ESPN, let me see, records. Passing touchdowns, passing Mahomes, passing touchdown percentage, 8.8%. Sack percentage is the lowest, and 3.9%. He never gets sacked. Tyreek Hill, most receiving touchdowns, 7. This team's good. They got a great offense, an absolutely outstanding offense, perfect offense in my opinion. They got Travis Kelce, a tight end, elite tight end. They got Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill as deep threats. They're both insanely fast and insanely quick moving. And then you got a running back in Kareem Hunt, who, if you watched any of today's game and including his hurdle, he is probably going to be one of the best running backs, if not the best running back, next to Todd Gurley in the near future, in my opinion. I think he's really going to elevate himself and really become one of those great quarterbacks. Running backs. Sorry. And that's really what elevates this offense and makes it, the top offense in the NFL, because the receivers are great, tight end's great, running back, they can score in every single way of the ball, except for defense. Their defense statistically is the worst. Eric Reed, they lost him, and ever since that, they really haven't been able to come together as a defense. They lost Marcus Peters, which that's a big loss. He's doing great things in Los Angeles right now, who are my number 1 team. So, you got to have a defense. if anything, if going to the Super Bowl and winning, you know, it proves that you need a defense, because if you look at the Seahawks team that I think won in 2012 or 2011, I forget which year it was, the Super Bowl, they, that year, yes, they had a great offense. They had Russell Wilson, big star coming into the league. They had Marshawn Lynch, who was just in his prime. Jimmy Graham, Doug Baldwin, Percy Harvin. They had a high flying offense. They had a great offense. But they also had an amazing defense. That was when the Legion of Boom was becoming a thing, and they had Richard Sherman, they had Camp Chancellor, and they had a stacked front seven. They also had a stacked offensive line too, and that's why they won the Super Bowl, because they dominated the Broncos on both sides of the ball. They shredded them on offense, and they bull stuffed them on defense. They could. You saw it. The Broncos couldn't score any points. They couldn't get to them. They couldn't get through them because they had a great defense, and on all aspects of the defense. And the Chiefs have a good front seven, in my opinion. They have a really good front seven. I think it does well in certain situations. It's been iffy, but I think it can be good when they're on it. The big problem is their secondary. Their secondary really scares me, and I don't like it, and it gets burned almost every week. So that's how are they gonna compete against these receivers? How are they gonna when they get into the AFC Championship game? How are they gonna defend against it? Huh? How are they gonna defend against a small threat like Julian Edelman, and then you got a deep threat like Josh Gordon? How are you going to be able to cover that? You got to, the trade deadline is ending, it's this. I think it's this Tuesday, either this Tuesday or this Wednesday. They got to figure out a way to get. They were trying to get Earl Thomas, but they couldn't get a deal through, and then he broke his leg. So, they're trying to upgrade their defense, and I expect them to make a move, certainly this before the deadline. Because I think that they realize that is their one area of weakness, and they want to enhance it so that they can go far into the playoffs. So the fourth team is the Chiefs. The fifth team, really, it's a big toss-up in my opinion, because you got the Panthers, the Steelers, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Texans, and the Bears. And I think that the Panthers and the Chargers are both kind of the same team. I think that the Panthers are a very, very good team on offense. They have a very good caliber offense. They got McCaffrey at running back. They got Funchess and Curtis Samuel on the outside, who are becoming deep threats. Cam Newton is a good quarterback, serviceable, can be very great at times. And then you got stars on defense. You got Luke Kuechly, and I forgot to mention Greg Olsen on offense. He's actually a very good tight end. He can get up, he can get the ball. I think he's really good. I just sometimes their defense kind of implodes, which is ironic because they do have very good secondary weapons, and I think their front seven is by far one of the best in the NFL. Leaded by Luke Kuechly. And I think they can go very far. I think I need to see it consistently. I think Ron Rivera is a good coach in this NFL today, and I think that he is capable of leading this team to a Super Bowl. I need to see it consistently. I don't need to see another 12-4. I need to see I need to see a 13-3. I need to see an aggressive season, an aggressive aggressive play calling, moves that need to be made. I want to see them fully push, which I think they have been doing this year. I think they are realizing that they can actually make a run for the Super Bowl, and I think that they are, signing Eric Reed. They want to go there. It's all in for them, and they want to go straight to the Super Bowl. So I think they have a very good chance, and that makes me believe that they are my fifth best team. So I'm gonna rank them as my fifth best team. And 6, which I think is probably going to come as a surprise to some people, I'm going with the Los Angeles Chargers because I think Phillip Rivers is really heating it up right now. He hasn't skipped a beat. He's doing very well. Um, Melvin Gordon's a very good bell cow back. I think he's probably the third best running back in the league. And they got deep threats like Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, and Mike Williams, who are stud rookies that are getting it done. And their defense, they got what's that guy's name? Derwin James, their first round pick this year, who's arguably might be the defensive rookie of the year. Could be him. Their defense is just, it's good, in my opinion. They've proven that, and their front seven's actually very good too, with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa, who I know hasn't really played a lot this season, but he's proven that he can, elevate the team and change the game for the team at that position. So I think when their defense is fully together and as a unit, I think they can be really good. So they're definitely my 6th best team, and that's, I know people are going to say that the Steelers are better than them, but the Steelers have an atrocious defense, in my opinion. The secondary is probably one of the bottom of the barrel, bottom 5 at least. And their offense is what it is every year. It starts off terrible, and then mid-season to end of the season, it heats up quickly, like very quickly, with Big Ben and Antonio Brown, Juju, and not Le'Veon Bell, but James Conner, who has been tearing up the NFL as the new Steelers running back, because Le'Veon Bell is being a little bit of a baby because he's not getting his money, which, in my opinion, he does not deserve. So he will most likely either be traded before this deadline this Tuesday, or he will be let free this offseason to sign wherever he pleases, and someone will give him a ginormous deal, which they will immediately regret, and that's how it will end. But I hope it's not the Jets, and I hope they're not stupid enough to do that, because I don't want him. My AOL settings are out of date. That's not good. Good thing I don't use it. Okay, so Steelers are 7 because, their defense can be good at some times. They got T.J. Watt. They got Terrell Edmonds, who's been kind of a penalty monster as a rookie this year. But, what rookie isn't? Their secondary could be good at points. So I think they could easily be a good team in this league. They could be a Super Bowl team. They just always seem to choke last minute. So they're definitely number 7 for me. Number 8 definitely is the Houston Texans, because I think their offense right now, as in terms of Week 8, their offense is really clicking, and Lamar Miller's running the ball well. They're giving him a lot of carries, which I think they should do, because he proves at a lot of times that when he gets a lot of carries and he gets a good snap count, that he can run and he can produce and he can score touchdowns. Deshaun Watson's again proving that, like I said earlier, he's the second best quarterback in that draft next to Carson Wentz, and like I said, he's probably going to end up being better because I think he's a better runner and I think he's a better athlete, in my opinion. So we'll see how that pans out, obviously, in the next 5 or 6 years. But in my eyes, it's going to be Deshaun is the better quarterback. That's bad voice crack. I always get those. And then we got, in my opinion, the best wide receiver in the NFL, DeAndre Hopkins, who makes catch after catch, and he just racks up a lot of yards. I think he's really equivalent. He's a skinnier Megatron, in my opinion, a skinnier Calvin Johnson. So I think he's got that ceiling. I think he's going to be very good for his entire career, as long as he stays with Deshaun Watson, who he has a very good connection with. Their defense is great. They got great secondary weapons. They got the best front seven, one of the best front sevens, with Clowney and Watt. So it's 2 premier defensive players right there. I think they're gonna. I don't know how far they can go, because I don't know how their defense and their sometimes struggling offense can hold against some of these other teams. They do have a very easy schedule remaining, in my opinion. Uh, you know, it it's hard to say. I want to say that they could get into the AFC Championship game, and I mean the NFC Championship game. Sorry about that. I mean I was right. the AFC Championship game. I was right at the first time. I could see them getting there, but you're facing the Patriots, and I know they've proven that they can hang with the Patriots, but everyone's proven they can hang with the Patriots, but they haven't beaten them. You can prove you can hang with them all you want. If you can't beat them, you can't beat them. So this team, they started off 0-3. Everyone was questioning the head coach. What's going on with the offense? Like, what's going on? And then they won 5 in a row. They won Thursday night against Miami. And they've kind of been proving that when their offense is all together, because that last year they lost to Sean Watson in the halfway point of the season because of his torn ACL. Lost him to a torn ACL, and everyone was like, "Oh, season's over," which it kind of wasn't, but they didn't finish the way they wanted to, obviously. So this year, with him fully healthy and him with the team, they've proven that they can be a very good team. As I said, they won 5 in a row, with one of those wins being against Jacksonville, winning 20-7. But like I said, they do have an easy schedule remaining. After their game that they won against Miami, next week they face Denver, who, in my opinion, is a very soft team on offense. They have a good front seven with Bradley Chubb, Brandon Marshall, and Von Miller, but I think that their defense is starting to slow down, and I don't really like their defensive coordinator. So I don't think they're that good of a team. Then they got a bye week 10, and then they face Washington, who is the division leader of an awful division. Who I guess they're a good team. You can't say they're not a good team. They are a good team. They've found ways to win, but I don't think they're better than the Texans. So I think that's a win for them. And then they got Tennessee, who's an awful team. They got Cleveland, who's still bad, but is finding its footing, I would say, with Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb and all them. They got a game against Indianapolis, who I think will be a very different team by then. I think they're starting to find their footing, and they're starting to really click on offense, and their defense is starting to come together. So I think they could be a good team, but I don't expect them to be a very astounding team, already with 5 losses. So I think that's a win for them. And then December 15th, they got the Jets, which, I hope and pray to God that it's a good game, but it might not be. The Jets are a work in progress, so we'll see. Then they got a game against Philadelphia, who I think is a one-hit wonder. Ironically, because I'm a Phillies fan, I'm not a Jets fan. I don't believe in Philadelphia. I don't think that they have a good enough defense to compete with these offenses, and I think the offense needs to improve in the running back and wide receiver area. It's just I got to see more. They're struggling right now. And then they got a game against Jacksonville, who they already proved is a fluke team by beating them up 20-7. So that's probably going to be another win for them. In the next couple of years, I'm assuming they're probably going to be higher in my rankings because they're only going to get better and better from here because they have been getting better ever since they drafted Mr. Deshaun Watson. They're my number 8 team, which leaves 2 teams left, and I don't know why. I just messed up, but there are 2 teams left, and that is the Chicago Bears and the Baltimore Ravens. Ryan, I'm going to ask you this question. Who do you think is the better team, Bears or the Ravens? You don't know? Bears? You think the Bears are better? I think the Bears are better, too. And I'm surprised you actually said the Bears because you don't really watch football, do you?
Not as much as
I know. The Bears did play good today against a terrible Jets defense. Well, not a terrible Jets defense. They had a great defense today. I just think, Mitchell Trubisky's proving that he's actually going to be a good quarterback. Not a Tom Brady or not an Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's going to be a good enough quarterback to take this team to the playoffs. Not necessarily to the Super Bowl, but, far enough into the playoffs as they can go. Trubisky's on and off. I mean, I know the last 3 weeks he's done very well. So I think that he's proven to me that I think he can be a good quarterback in this league. He's just got to stay consistent, in my opinion. He's got to keep it going. He's got to really stay with his current success. They're definitely going to be my number 18. Oh, that's copyrighted. You can't have that in there. We'll be okay. Don't worry about it. I have NFL's consent, so I mean, it's okay. Yeah, they're sponsoring me. They're definitely my number 18. I think the number 9 team is the Ravens because I think they obviously have a very good defense. Baltimore's always known for their defense, and they got a lot of offensive weapons this year. Michael Crabtree, John Brown. They drafted Lamar Jackson, who many speculated would he start, but they ended up going with Garoppolo because he has experience, and he, believe it or not, drove them to a Super Bowl. So, there's that. Their offense isn't really that special in my opinion. They score points and they generate offense and they win games, but they also have not really had that big of a schedule. Division rivals like the Browns and the Steelers, they haven't beaten. So, they can beat up the good teams. I mean, they can beat up the bad teams, but they can't square with the good teams. And I think they're the same wavelength as the Cincinnati Bengals, but I still think that the Ravens have a better defense than the Bengals, and I think that they mostly have a better offense than the Bengals as well. So I definitely rank them as my number 10 team. I just cracked my neck. My surprise teams, Houston Texans, because they're a lot better this year than they were last year. Because, like I said, Deshaun Watson has been healthy. I'm very surprised on how bad the Jaguars are. I thought that Blake Bortles would get it together and realize that he is terrible and actually try to elevate his game. He didn't do that. And I don't really think that he's a good enough quarterback to be in this league, and I think they're going to change it very soon. Leonard Fournette's not playing. They don't have a number 1 true wide receiver. I don't know where this team goes. They got a good defense, but I think it's been proven that it's a little overrated. It's kind of flawed at points with their front seven and sometimes their secondary. So, they've just been a really disappointing team this season, and I don't think they could go to the playoffs, but I don't really know if they will. I don't have them in my top 10 teams for a reason, so I don't know if they'll make the playoffs. They're probably a close 11 or 12. Now I'm going to talk about the Amari Cooper trade and how everybody is flabbergasted at how the Cowboys traded a first-round pick for him. I don't understand the noise. I don't understand why people are upset with it. I can understand if you were a Cowboys fan, you might be upset with it because you think a first-round pick is more valuable. Take a look back in the last 4 drafts and tell me one wide receiver who has been, top tier. Last 3. Then tell me who has been a true wide receiver 1 value. And get back to me on it. Give me the list of it because there's not a lot. The value of a first-round pick is what you make it. This year the Giants are probably going to finish last or second to last or whatever. They're gonna try and do whatever they can to get in the top 5 because they need that quarterback. At least I think they need that quarterback. I don't know if they think they need that quarterback because they haven't thought that for the last 4 years. So, a first-round pick in terms of the Giants' value, I would assume, would be a quarterback. And as any Cowboy fan would know, what we're going to use that pick on, that first-round pick on, what we're going to use it on? You were going to use it on a receiver because that's their biggest need. Amari Cooper's 24. You basically already drafted him. You basically used that pick on him. So, he's got tremendous upside. He's an Alabama product. He's proven that he can play at a high level in big game situations. He can get up, he can get the ball, he can play well. He just hasn't had good consistency at quarterback. Derek Carr's not really a top 10, top 15 quarterback in my opinion. He's just not. He's proven that he can be, but at this point in time, I don't think he is. He's not proven enough at this point to tell me that he is a top 10, top 15 quarterback. So that inconsistency, along with the differentiating offensive coordinators and coaches and just being in the worst possible organization at the worst possible time with the relocation into Las Vegas, I just don't think he was given enough of the spotlight, and I don't think he was given enough production in terms of what he's valued at. He's 24 years old, and he's got a lot of upside. He's got potential. So I think him going to Dallas and him being in a better system with a better offensive coordinator, with better offensive weapons, and I think a better quarterback who's got to prove it, but he's still a better quarterback in Dak Prescott. I think they could, I think they can make it work with him. I think he can get that volume that he really needs to get and what he truly deserves to get, and I think he can really elevate himself into a wide receiver 1. And I hope he does because I'm a fan of his. I really I love how he played with Alabama, and I really want him to succeed in the NFL. And I think he will in this new trade. And, like I said, the first rounder is what you make it, and to them, they needed a wide receiver 1, and they were going to draft one in the draft upcoming with their first round anyway. So here you are. You got them right now. They want to win right now. They're being aggressive. They want to win right now, so they went out and got a receiver. And now we're going to talk about something that I know was not going to make Ryan happy because I'm going to talk crap about Aaron Rodgers. I had to take a sip of my water. I think that Mr. Drew Brees is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. I would take Brees over Rodgers any day of the week, mainly Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays. It's a no-brainer to me. I know that Rodgers is a clutch performer, and I know that he can play in the big stage. He did it once, though, and I know that Brees also did it once too. But I just think Brees is a better performer. I think he's a better player. I think he can elevate the people around him, and I think he can win games. He's a game changer. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. He's very smart. He's very technical. He's very poised. I think he's got all the tools you would want to see in a quarterback. He's breaking records. One of 4 quarterbacks to have 500 touchdowns, most passing yards, and now he's got a streak with the most. I think passing attempts without an interception. I think it's 220 or something like that. I don't remember. But I think he's just better, and I think Rodgers is a bit of a whiner. When he doesn't get what he wants, he's upset. He tries to control most of the decisions that the front office makes, and he wants all the money, and he wants everything to be revolved around him. And that's not what you would want in a leading quarterback, in my opinion. And I think Brees is a better example of that. So I just think Brees is better than Rodgers, in my opinion. And I think that about wraps this up, huh? What? You give me a thumbs up? I'll just talk about the World Series a little bit because the World Series is the last game tonight. Well, I mean, it's not. It could be the last game. It's Red Sox and Dodgers, which Yippee the Dodgers. I'm a Phillies fan, so I hate the Dodgers. I didn't hate him in 2008 though because kind of took care of him, took care of business. So it's okay. Boston's on their way to winning. I think they're clearly the better team. They're clearly the better managed team. You can see with how Dave Roberts has dealt with his pitching issues and his game management issues. I just think that the Red Sox are clearly the better team. They ran through everybody in the postseason, and I think they're clearly on their way to winning their second World Series in, I think, 5 or 6 years. They won in 2013, I think. So I think they're going to win tonight. So fingers crossed, right? Nope, we hate the Red Sox. We hate the Red Sox and the Dodgers. Yeah, because your dad likes them. Yeah, they suck. I'm kidding. They're not going to win though. And if they win, then they got to win 3 in a row because they're down 3-1. So they're not going to win. I want them to, but they're not going to. It's okay though. So that's my official prediction. Even though I actually predicted in the beginning of the season, well, before the season even started, that I thought the Astros were going to win. They got demolished by the Red Sox. So that proved that wrong. They also had a lot of injuries and they had pitching issues. So I'm not going to hold it against them. Yeah. So I talk mainly about football. I talk mostly about football because I'm kind of a football nut right now because it's going on. Baseball is obviously going on with the World Series, but not as much. It's not like regular season talk. So, and my Phillies are out, so whatever. don't want to look at Jets Bears highlights. That was my first episode. So thank you. Turn in. Tune into my next episode, which I don't know when it's going to be, but we're going to make another one. It's going to be a lot better than this one because this one sucks, and I really hate it. So, goodbye!